If we're looking at the skill set necessary to do any of this work, you would have people in the quarries who break the stone, then you would have people in the quarries who dress the stone, then you have stone cutters who put the stone on a banker and square them up, and that was bread work. It was called bread work in Germany because you would make your living from just doing that. You would stand all day long and you would square the block. And this had to be absolutely precise. You have to be 90 degree and it has to be flat. You can't have indentations, you can't have steadiness. So it had to be it was a very skilled industry where people would like 40, 50, 60 people standing on the bankers and working this. After that, you have a stone cutter who would carve profiles, smaller profiles first. Then the next step from stone cutting is going into kind of sculpting, where you have pieces like this. This is on the brink of stone cutting and a slightly higher grade. And then if you look at the capitals, where you have Doric, Ionic and composite capitals, which are very complicated. And these pieces are complicated to carve and you need to be quite skilled to do that. And you can only do that by doing it. You have to kind of get your piece ready. You have to make sure that you have the knowledge of geometry and how to construct these pieces first, because everything on this stonework can be broken down into curves, flat surfaces, angles, and 90-degree squares. We have also, in the front here, the steps are made from granite. Granite is a very, very different, obviously very different material to limestones, and it's much harder and very different composition. So the tools for granite are very different to the tools of limestone. And the way to work a granite, for granite you need to be a bit more brutal than with the limestone. Limestone chisels need to move. If you use a pitcher in limestone, you have to make sure that you address the limestone from an angle, and you have to make sure that you don't hold it too hard so the tool can kind of swing, because you have to remove the bulk of the limestone. So you have to work that in angles. Where granite, by its nature, is completely compact. So what you do there is you have chisels with a very hard steel insert, and they're much thicker, and you put them nearly straight onto the surface, and you have to hit it really hard. You have to really pound it. So granite is a very difficult material to work, but it's quite nice once you get into the hit of it, because it comes off in very small parts. But once it works, it works, and it can be nice to work if you don't have to do too much of it. Where the limestone is pleasant enough to work, especially the Irish materials are very nicely. They're standing to the chisel quite nicely, so they do what you want them to do. Where I work materials, the German limestones, where you have clay pockets and whatever, and so you hit it with a punch and all of a sudden your punch sinks into the surface because there's a clay pocket or a corner disappears on you. Sometimes you have little stones that are embedded and you can't see to the inside of the stone, so you can come across a situation where you then work your profile and all of a sudden you have a pebble embedded. So what you need to do with that is you have to work your profile around that, and you leave that pebble in place, and then you later get a grinder with a diamond blade and you carefully cut that off. Otherwise you'll end up with a big hole in the stone. But that doesn't happen in the Irish limestone. It's great stuff to chisel.